Hello, everyone. Welcome to Harvey on the Road Consulting panel hosted by the Office of Career Services. My name is Jose,
And my name's Leslie.
and we are practicum students at OCS. So we hope you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during these times. Today we have two panelists, one from Deloitte and one is from Mars & Co. So I want to let them introduce themselves real quick. If you could start off by sharing your name, what college you attended, your current company, and your current title.
Sure, yeah, John Sprouse, nice to meet everyone. I'm a 1988 grad from CMC. Played basketball at CMC. I've been involved with the Alumni Association over the years, so still stay quite active with the college, which is great in the 5-college community. I currently work for Deloitte. I've been there a little over 8 years, and my current title is Managing Director, and I'm in our technology consulting practice.
Great. My name's Ian Brown. I graduated from Pomona, class of 14. Spent quite a lot of time at MUD. My brother was Harvey MUD, class of 15. I am currently a consultant at Mars & Co., which is a small strategy firm, and I'm based in San Francisco.
Awesome. Thank you for both of you for being here. We hope the students get to know a lot of knowledge about consulting, and we hope your experiences help them find their own career path, and maybe some of them will join consulting as well. So we're going to start off with the first question, and the question is going to be, what is consulting for the students that don't know what consulting is?
Sure, I'll start and then Ian can begin. So consulting falls under the umbrella of professional services. So generally speaking, it's part of the professional services industry. Legal consulting and accounting are all part of kind of the professional services industry, but consulting in particular is really working with clients, external clients on projects. So identifying the needs and the scope for those projects, and then delivering on those clients. And we work in consulting across multiple industries. So we'll work in commercial industry, also work in public sector, are also big clients for many of the consulting firms, as well as globally. So we often work on global clients and global projects, and tend to pre-COVID travel a lot on airplanes. Not so much anymore, but definitely the lifestyle usually involves some travel, and so if you like that, it's a great place to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great rundown. I would say consulting is a pretty broad umbrella that covers sort of a wide variety of different services, from technology, business strategy, engineering, a wide variety of HR. It just goes on and on. There's a wide variety of problems that companies, organizations, government agencies need solved, that they bring in external help for. Consulting describes all those services, but there's quite a bit of variation or differences in experience across the board.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing. So we'll move on to our next question. Our next question is, what was your career path that led you to your current position?
I've been in consulting ever since I graduated from CMC. So I actually went right into consulting at a company that you probably heard of, but doesn't exist anymore, called Arthur Andersen, which ultimately failed due to some scandals back in the day, the Enron scandal, probably you've heard of. But it was a very reputable firm at the time when I joined it. So I started there, and I've basically been doing the same thing, although I took a little break from consulting, and I was, for about 3 years, I held chief information officer positions for a few years at 2 different companies back in the kind of the startup days, when that was hot. And then I really went back to consulting. I was on my own. I did independent consulting for a while, about 8 years after that. And then I rejoined back in a big firm at Deloitte, in 2012. So, a lot of times in consulting, we align people to industry expertise and affiliations. I, in particular, have a specialty in kind of the media entertainment industry. Even though I have served clients across industry, I've served a lot of clients in media, entertainment, and telecom, which obviously there's some merging in that now. So, but I've always been in the technology business, serving clients, external clients, other than my brief stint as a CIO where I served internal business clients.
Yeah, I have a slightly less illustrious career, but I've been in consulting since I graduated from Pomona in 2014. And I've been at Mars for almost all that time. Mars is a pretty small firm focused mostly on business strategy. And yeah, I've been 5 out of the 6. I took a year off essentially and did some contract work in the nonprofit space, but it's been almost my entire time at Mars.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So my next question is going to be, what projects or tasks are performed in a typical week in this job?
You know, for it kind of the position I'm at and the level I'm at, we really have 2 things in consulting, and I think most consultants will go through this. So we really have kind of 2 activities day to day. One is selling, and the second is delivering. And so we, you know, in order to kind of fill our pipeline with projects, we're always, and especially, you know, at a more senior level, we're often developing relationships with clients. That's how we get a lot of our business in consulting, so at least half of my day is spent selling in some way, whether it's relationship development, a lot of Zoom video calls these days with clients for sure, meeting with them when we can. We, at least at Deloitte, we tend to like to be out at clients and actually be on site and meeting with them in person, and whether that be at their offices or lunch or dinner or drinks or whatever it is. But social selling and relationship selling is a big part of the business. And then the second part of that is delivery. So continuing to deliver projects that you've scoped out and sold for clients, and you know, I'm managing those teams. I have team people both in the US as well as in India that we manage for technology projects. And I would just say, you know, the industry's evolved a little bit since I started, and I'm sure Ian will confirm this, but technology focus is a big part of all consulting projects. Even if you're doing a strategy project, having a keen eye as to what technology trends are and innovation in technology is a big part of consulting, and really underpins all consulting firms in the work they do in some way. So a big part of that is learning, you know, certainly keeping up to speed on technology and innovation and trends so that you can bring those perspectives and points of view to clients.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Even in the 6 years I've been working in consulting, the increased emphasis on the importance of technology has been pretty clear. For my typical week on the job, it's much more on the delivery side. I think, as John indicated, the more junior you are, typically, the more your role is focused on delivery. As you grow, you start to own those relationships with clients and more actively sell work. But for me, most of what I'll do in a given week is around delivery, is whatever the problem the client is asking us to solve. I'm focused on working on that, coming up with, you know, doing analysis to understand what is really the issue, what impact could the potential solutions we're offering have, talking to people internally on our team and from the client to understand what their needs are, how this solution may fit their business model, things like that. And then putting together PowerPoint presentations or other forms of sort of deliverable handoff to help communicate the solutions we come up with, and get everyone understanding what's going on and on board with our recommendations.
And I want to just add a couple things just to kind of link it into why are we here, and talking to, you know, obviously HMC folks. You know, again, as I said and kind of intro, the industry has become very technology focused, generally speaking. What that means tactically is, for example, Deloitte has evolved from from not doing a lot of, let's just call it pure software development work and product development work and engineering work to where that is our fastest growing area, and we've invested a lot in that over the last 5 to 10 years. 10 years ago, we had very few sort of software development projects and programming projects. So that's definitely a hot growth area for us, and really akin to the skills that you learn at HMC, taking those sort of software development, product development. Cloud is a big, and I'm happy to go as deep as you want in cloud, but cloud is a big part of that. So cloud engineering, cloud development projects is certainly a hot area for us. So, that's one of the reasons why I think we wanted to come on, was just explain that while the Googles of the world certainly hire top tech talent, we compete for those same folks too, and need those folks in our practice, and need graduates like those from HMC in our practice. So those are typical projects, more and more typical.
Awesome. You sort of read my mind on what the next question was going to be.
Sorry.
No, it's awesome. That's good. That's how the conversation's supposed to go. So my next question will be, and you could elaborate a little bit more, is how can the students use the skills they're developing right now in STEM in their courses and their internships? How could that translate to a consulting position?
Yeah. The thing I liked about consulting when I graduated, and I was actually a programmer, probably not at the level of skills that you all are on the HMC grads, but I was actually a programmer coming out of CMC, did some programming work and did a lot of that at Arthur Andersen. And what I liked about it was a couple things. One, being able to do a lot of different projects. So rather than be focused on one particular job in an internal company, in an internal role, I liked having the variety of different projects for different clients. And so that's what's really exciting about consulting, is to be able to do different things. And so these days it is about those skills about cloud infrastructure, cloud development. Those are a big part of our projects in various ways. Deploying applications on cloud, delivering business solutions, like Salesforce or SAP, the sort of solutions that are business focused solutions. But the other reason that I liked consulting was it gave me a chance to kind of link what I learned at CMC around business skills and business analysis and financial analysis, and link that into delivering technical work. And so consulting is a very good training ground for sort of taking those really good technical skills you have, but then also applying them. How do they actually solve business problems or move the ball forward on, in the case of software development, developing new innovative products, for example, and how does that actually add value to a company? So to me, consulting was the perfect blend, and is the perfect blend of sort of that business view, that business analysis and strategy analysis, along with delivering solutions that are going to advance that cause.
So I guess there's a distinction between the work I do and the work John does here. We do not, at Mars, we do not get into the sort of the technology side or the implementation of technology side. We're very small and don't have those capabilities. So I'll talk a little bit about my journey to answer this question. I come from a math background, sort of a theoretical math major at Pomona. And what I found by the end was that I wasn't that interested in doing math as a career. That I loved sort of the problem solving aspects of math, but was not that engaged in math research. Not that interested in sort of independent research at a graduate level or anything like that. And consulting offers sort of and at Mars, sort of the business consulting or business strategy side without technology, offered the opportunity to apply a lot of the skills that I learned as a math major to more of a business context. So things like understanding sort of in an abstract sense what the properties of a problem are and how solving one problem could be those solutions and those methodologies could be applied to another problem. I think early in my career, I described one problem as isomorphic to another problem, going back to like my abstract algebra days. That was not well received by my manager, but I think the sort of logical thinking, the problem solving, and the comfort with numbers and thinking on your feet that you learn with a STEM degree translates very well to sort of management strategy work within the consulting field. And my firm in particular hires predominantly, almost exclusively, STEM majors, people who are going to be very comfortable with from a quantitative standpoint for the strategy work.
Awesome. So just to go off what we're kind of talking about the skills and how they could be applied, what are the 3 top skills, in your opinion, that are most important to be successful in consulting?
I think it's evolved a bit. I mean, I think when I started, you could be a bit of a generalist, but now I think it's much more specific skill oriented. And you know, when you do go into consulting, with especially if you went on your own, for example, you really have to be known for something and something very specific. And so I think part of it is kind of crafting your story about what you're known for. And having that specific skill set. And again, I have 2 college age kids, and I tell them all the time they have to learn technology, and they resist a bit sometimes, but you know, technology in all its forms is key. But I think a key part of that is just being open to learning new technology. You're never going to know everything. So I think what we look for is just an openness and willingness and a self-starting mentality of learning about anything new, whether it's technology or business concepts, but not being afraid to jump in full force, be a self-starter and learn those new attributes. And then I'd say kind of the last thing is in consulting, we do look for I'll call them the soft skills, and that takes a number of when we interview, and certainly many of them in the HMC career department will be familiar with this, but when we interview people, we look for things like how are they operating in a team. We have team interviews, for example, and so we have a business case, a team case study in our interviewing process. We look for interaction. How do they communicate? How does that person communicate? Do they seem to be able to talk on their feet and kind of pivot quickly? And so we look for a lot of soft skills in addition to, you know, the very technical skills. I think that's sort of the killer combination of having that really well-read, well-spoken person along with really deep technical skills that we look for.
Yeah. For Mars, I think the top skill is problem solving, and really the ability to wed sort of the quantitative approach to sort of incorporate that into the larger context. All the recommendations, all the problems we solve are grounded in a really thorough understanding of the numbers and the data. And that's why we bring in people from STEM. But you also need to be able to sort of interpret that output, learn how to ask the right questions of the data. And a lot of that's just sort of dependent on your ability to solve sort of the business context or the business problems. The second skill is just the ability to learn quickly and adapt. We serve a variety of clients. The projects are going to be a couple months long, even less sometimes a couple weeks. So the ability to adapt to a new environment and think on your feet and learn quickly is paramount. And then third, I think what John called the soft skills, I might call communication, the ability to present yourself well to the client, to work well with your team. And I think what I found coming from sort of a math background and moving into a business setting, I was very interested in sort of the technical details and being precise and exact and accurate. But there's different level of details and different needs that other people will have. So communicating the exact, you know, to the third decimal point or whatever is good for some audiences and not appropriate for other audiences. So understanding that context and being interested in communicating almost as if you're solving problems, I think is key. You can't look at the project and say, once I finish the technical side, I'm done. The communication is as important, if not more important in some cases. And if you don't have an interest in sort of solving the communication problem, how do we tell this to the client? You're going to be struggling at the end of the day.
Thank you for sharing. So it seems like communication and teamwork are two very top skills that you look for. So what type of experiences do you recommend students right now to take advantage of? So what types of internships or what types of jobs should they be taking in order to prepare themselves for these interviews so that they have all the skills?
I think from a Deloitte perspective, it would be, whether it's in your studies or your classes or internships, definitely working in that team environment that Ian and I and working in project teams and being able to have the experience of team dynamics and learning. A lot of the interviews will focus on those types of questions. What did you learn from this team, and how did you correct for it? Our business case studies in our team interviews are largely about interacting with a client. So what did you hear from a client? I mean, even better for us would be if you had an external client facing role in your internships, where you actually did serve a client on a project. Not necessarily required, but that would certainly be a leg up. And then lastly, demonstrating that you applied your technical skills that you've learned at HNC onto a project, whether it's actually a software development project or something technical, that certainly would be a leg up too. We've had various folks have various paths on some of that. I remember interviewing one person, and they started their own e-commerce website, and so that was interesting. So we hired them into our e-commerce practice, and they had a lot of experience, albeit for themselves, in developing their own e-commerce solution. And so they had a relevant story to tell when talking to clients. So that's just one example of many, but those would be some of the key things we would look for.
Yeah, I think from an internship perspective, there's a lot of consulting internships out there. That's obviously a great way. Obviously directly applicable. In college, I worked at a startup that was making mobile video games, writing algorithms for them my sophomore year. And then I worked for a sort of market research firm over the summer after my junior year. So I got the business environment. I had sort of a demonstratable technical background there too. And that served me well. I think it's important to have teamwork skills wherever you develop them, even in class projects. And I think, especially coming straight out of undergrad, you can get by with just an interest and an excitement for consulting. If you've done research, if you've spent your time sort of in non-applicable or not directly relatable internships, it makes the road a little tougher, but there's always room to enter consulting if you're skilled, enthusiastic, and a good team player.
Yeah, and you're triggering me on a couple things. So I think when I first started in consulting, we did hire a lot of non-technical people, if you will, history majors or English majors, or I see that we're moving away a little bit from that. I think, I'm not sure what you think, Ian, but we're moving a little bit away from those, let's call them non-directly applicable majors, if you will. But you're triggering on a couple things. I think what I've been talking about is a lot around software development, but data science and statistics is extremely hot in consulting. Obviously, just really in any company, any organization, but that certainly is a hot area in consulting. And another hard area would be cyber. And so those types of skills, if you have interest in those areas, are certainly hot skills in addition to the programming talent and skills as well.
Yeah, and I will say, if this was a Pomona career event. I would not say that you can pivot from basically any background into consulting
Right.
if you're enthusiastic, because people do look for the technical skills, the comfort with numbers, things like that. But from Harvey Mudd, where you're all going to be STEM majors, generally, that sort of background and grounding in technology and in comfort with numbers is going to serve you well in consulting in general.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We might, different audiences, we might say, for example, we have a human capital consulting practice in Deloitte where it's all around the people and in human capital aspects of that. So obviously that's more tailored towards maybe a liberal arts major or other types of non-technical majors. So as Ian said, there's multiple paths in consulting and a lot of things we do beyond just technology work.
Awesome. So we have like around 5 minutes left before we make our transition into the breakout rooms. So we have 2 more questions. So the next question is going to be, what is the best way for students to prepare for case interviews?
I think I've alluded to some of it, but it's a bit hard to prepare, frankly, because you don't know what it is. I think, I'll say from a couple of perspectives, what we look for in those cases are, analytical skills, reading the case and drawing conclusions, and analytical skills. And a lot of the times the questions out of those case studies are things like, who are the key stakeholders that you would talk to about this project? What is the approach you would use for this project? And so we're looking for answers that go a bit above and beyond the obvious. The kind of testing analytical skills about how would you address it that might not just be the traditional route. So that's kind of one aspect. And then the other is just that you would be working in a team, a case interview team possibly, and are you providing leadership, some sense of leadership, either in your communications or working with the other team members. I mean, those would be a couple of key things that we would look for coming out. Tough to prepare for, but that we look for coming out of that.
Yeah, on our end, our case interviews are going to be sort of traditional management consulting case style. If you Google them, companies have examples on their websites. I'm sure the Career Center at Harvey Mudd has a file of them. I'm sure CMC probably has a whole library of them. So practicing those and having a partner do those with you is great. I think having someone who can give you feedback on, they don't even need to know that much about consulting, but they can understand whether your answer makes sense a little bit, understand things that you assume in your head are clear may not be. So just talking it through with a partner or with a parent or with a peer who's interested in consulting, all of those can be helpful to differing levels. And then the other thing is an interest in whatever consulting field you're going into, having an interest in that industry, in the type of clients you'll serve, can only help you. Having comfort with the different technologies you may be working with, or some idea of the business problems your clients may be facing. You don't have to know everything, obviously, but having knowing what the difference between a marketing organization and a sales organization or something like that may not be necessary, but will certainly give you a leg up if you have that familiarity.
Awesome. So we're gonna do our last question. So the last question is, what advice do you have for students who are looking for jobs or internships in consulting during the pandemic?
There's no doubt that along with every industry, consulting got hit in as well. And so each company's in a little bit different place. You'll see some of the public announcements in consulting of companies that have struggled. Generally speaking, what we've seen is that things have improved faster than we expected in terms of clients doing work. We thought there would be a much longer pause on clients doing work, and frankly, we're ahead of our very pessimistic projections. And so I think, so what you'll find now in consulting is there will be some companies that have put a freeze on hiring right now. but that's starting to uncork, I would say. And I think now is the time to begin talking to those companies, whether through job postings or through the career offices or other means. I do think the outlook is pretty positive in the consulting industry for next year, more positive than it was, say, certainly in April and May. Consulting goes through waves, so obviously we're in a bit of a difficult wave this year, but we're, at least from where I sit in my company, and I don't know about other companies, but we're coming out of it faster than expected, and that's usually good for consulting firms.
Yeah, I think a lot of consulting firms hire undergrads and interns out of college on a pretty regular schedule. So I think summer internships for your junior year, when I was applying, those applications would start in January. They may be even earlier now, I don't know. And then applications for full-time employment, those would start in August or September, so quite early. So just being familiar with that cycle. If you're not hitting those deadlines, you will miss a lot of opportunities. And then the other thing is, more than ever, I think there's a chance to stand out by reaching out to people, talking to people. If you put some effort into networking or meeting people from the company you want to apply to in advance, I think that sticks out to people. Usually you might do that through a career fair or in person, but I think people appreciate or notice the effort more now that it's all virtual.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, this concludes our panel. We thank you for both being here and sharing your experiences and everything. So right now we are going to transition into the Zoom breakout rooms for the networking session. So the students here attending could talk to John and Ian. So the link for the breakout session is in the chat. So make sure to copy that before you log off this session, and we will see you there. We also have one more announcement. The STEM Career Fair is going to be January 29th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you look at Leslie's screen, it shows the date there. So make sure to come and support OCS with that. And if you're interested in finding internships or any jobs, this is where you would go. So we will see you at the breakout rooms. And there is a waiting room, so you will have to be waiting to be let in. But yeah, so hope to see you all there.